Chill. Hey everybody, welcome to VFX and Chill. I am Hashi, and with me today is my good friend, Michael Zalapsky, the great Zalam. Welcome, Michael. How you doing?
Doing pretty good. It's a nice warm day. Just kidding. It's 70 degrees Fahrenheit. So,
Lovely.
Not hot.
Lovely. It is snowing here.
Not freezing cold like it is back in Tennessee.
Wild. Well, we are here on VFX and Chill. Sethless today, but we'll be joined by Seth again next week. Today, we are here to talk about water, and more specifically, a type of effect that is being employed in a couple of big movies out there right now, which is filming things that are dry for wet. What do we mean by that?
Yeah, it's relatively new. People have done day for night with much frequency. From the early days of Hollywood, you just color things blue to make it look night-like before cameras could actually shoot. And then as cameras got more and more sensitive, digital cameras and film cameras both, they could actually shoot with just they could shoot like actually in the dark. But shooting day for night, very common. But shooting dry for wet, that's a new one.
That's a new one. So a big Ridley Scott epic returning to ancient Rome was Gladiator II. I have not seen Gladiator II, so I won't be able to spoil anything from it. But aside from these visuals, which is that they represent this event called the Namchia, which is these crazy battles where they flooded the Colosseum with water and then had ship battles. So these are supposed
to... Which is the thing that happened.
It's a thing that happened. It is... here we go. As you can see, we have these, lovely records of what the experience must have been like. This one I thought was actually pretty interesting. I mean, these are from pictures from hundreds of years later, but... check out this. They've got these boats. These boats have these big, like spiky things on the front and stuff like that. So pretty neat concept. But
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. If I had the chance to watch a boat battle happen live with a great seat and popcorn and beverages, who would, especially free bread from the emperor, who would say no?
Absolutely. I mean, and I heard that they continued not in the Colosseum, but I believe that several people have put on some of these all the way into the 17th and 18th century as tributes to how crazy cool this was, which is amazing.
I mean, it is crazy cool.
But it is a challenging kind of sequence because you don't have a real Colosseum and you don't have, it's tricky to film with boats.
It would be very expensive to get a water system in a stadium at this scale, so expensive that it might be cheaper to hire a visual effects team to make it happen? Question mark?
I mean, if you're going with a visual effects team, who better than ILM, who produced these visuals? Some people may know this, but check out this. Here is how they filmed this sequence. Now, Ridley did have them build an even larger Colosseum set than they had for the first one. But these ship battles, they had a couple of different ways to film them. So they filmed some of them inside a controlled environment soundstage with a huge tank, a large indoor tank where they were able to do fighting on the ground next to the boats, because that happens as well, supposedly. But they also ran through the entire sequence. It was all choreographed to film it on these amazing little remote control boats. Or actually, not a remote control. I think they're actually driven.
It doesn't look. It's so cool.
It's amazing. So check out so this is sort of the way it would look in the movie, but it's composited together with all of this craziness. Look, they got sharks, they got tigers, they got rhinoceroses. Look at that. Oh, that's a fun reveal of the little robo mechanism that guy's on. So they went with the lovely idea of trying to film whatever they could and capture what they could in camera practically, but then augmenting a ton with a crazy amount of visual effects. And the ones that we want to specifically talk about today are these, because this is an absurd amount of...
Hang on. The wind is blowing in a different direction in the VFX shot than it is in the real life. I mean, look, because the smoke is going from right to left, screen right to screen left, but in the VFX shot, it goes the other direction. And I know why, because when they added the fire, they have a lot more smoke. It would cover up too much of the action, but still, holy Nikes.
Yes, and that smoke only there for the actor's benefit and to get in people's eyes. Like there's no reason knowing what they were about to do.
It's really interesting. Like looking at all of these shots, like that rhino is completely replaced in VFX, which means they had to paint out the background. Like none of that fake rhino is actually in because the actor's gonna be like, oh yeah, the whole rhino is none of that rhino is kept. Like none of that practical rhino is in the final shot. It's all digital.
Exactly. It's the
all of it.
Classic thing that, like if I understand that if you were interviewing the actors, they would say, no, I was there on this like mechanical rhino. That's how we filmed it. They won't know the tedious nature of rotoscoping, compositing, reprojecting them onto new geometry, all this excitingness.
Oh my gosh, because they're having to paint back in all this crap that the fake thing covered. Oh my god. Anyway.
Yes, it's a
lot of work.
And ship rigging, as anyone who's ever worked on a Pirates of the Caribbean movie knows, just the bane of both keying and rotoscoping existence, just tons of ropes and wild, thin little lines.
Oh, I had to add a logo to a ship's sails once. Holy crap! No, thank you.
No dice.
Thank God for Chris Varonis' lockdown.
Absolutely. So
let's look at this shot for a second. Like that's super cool. They've got a cool Coliseum. They've got these boats, and these stupid little islands with plastic
I love
cardboard
that they put
trees
the islands
on them.
in. Let's see. I think that I took an image of this these SPMTs. They're called self-propelled modular transports, and
so cool.
You can rent them. You can go to truckmo.com right now and rent one of these yourself and put a boat on it, and then go to whatever handy rebuilt Coliseum set you have, and drive the boats around and crash them into each other and stuff. But it's an incredible amount of work. And
it is. Speaking of work, Joseph, can't pronounce the middle part, visuals, says, Hashi, my dream is to do VFX with you or collab with you. They've been following you since the action movie Kid Days and Cheap Tricks. They're an FX comp artist. Hello.
Oh, thank you so much.
Patrick GG says, hey, it's okay. You're not missing much from Gladiator II, not having seen it. So that's fine. Brian White's asking, how did the Coliseum hold water? Michael Pollack says very carefully. The Coliseum was basically brick and mortar. It's stone. It holds water.
Yeah.
Frigby points out that it wouldn't be popcorn you were snacking on. It would be Thrush's tongue, if Monty Python is to be believed. Jason Murphy's waving hi. Michael Pollack says, maybe actors just need to use their imaginations and act better. I mean, you say that, but it's so, they can focus on getting the emotion right and the movement right if they've got, at least something in the periphery besides just blank blueness to look at. Patrick GG says, my head hurts from just thinking about all the VFX work that went into this. Well, as crazy as this is not the worst show for water effects.
No, it's not. Now, say you were doing a smaller, more art piece kind of film that was, say, about,
a biopic about the triumph of the human
spirit. Exactly. Someone swimming across, I don't remember. Is this the like from France to England?
Swimming from Cuba to Florida.
Cuba to Florida.
Cuba to Florida.
Sorry.
This is the story of Nyad. She swam at, as you can see from this, somewhat advanced age. Most people think of swimmers as in like their 20s, but she is well beyond that in this true story. And so they wanted to tell the story of this lady swimming from Cuba to Florida, and to make the story be told correctly, the amount of visual effects they had to do. They didn't shoot, and here's the problem. They didn't shoot dry for wet. They shot wet for wet, but the pool they were shooting in didn't have the ocean feel that they needed. Hashi, go ahead like 20 minutes in from here. Go. So this is the start of the coolness. So there's the plate you see in the bottom right, and then they've built themselves different options. This is just kind of their basics. Here's the different looks the ocean can have. And then when the filmmakers said, yeah, this is the look we want, then they would go in and start refining everything. But I'm just going to say this stuff is insanity, because they had to do camera tracks when all that was in the shot was a moving swimmer, moving water, and a moving boat. No solid frame of reference to get a camera track. And yet they had to track the camera, the boat's movement, and the actress's movement. And then they had to row out the water. And another great thing about this movie is every piece that's above the water of all of the actors, they keep the actors' original performances. Everything below the water is CGI. So you've got a body double below the water. Yeah, digidouble below the water. Regular person above the water. Then they had to get rid of most of the time, all of the water that was in the pool, completely replace it with this CG water. And they had to replace the CG water for a number of reasons. One, so it would look more like the ocean, so it would feel like it had the right color and the right depth. They also added flotsam and jetsam, like seaweed, to really make it feel like they were in the ocean, but also directionality. The current of the water and the way the water was moving had a major part to tell in the story, because she attempted this swim a number of times, and sometimes the current was against her, and so they had to show the directionality. The pool water is kind of just up, down, up, down. It didn't have a flow to it like ocean water does. So they had to replace all of the water in pretty much every shot. They barely ever used the actual pool water.
Which is... So... And, like, it's one of those things where I appreciate the craft so much. It's flawless to the point that I am not sure...
It's so good.
If I had seen these original plates, to be honest, I don't know if I would have known just watching this film. It looks like she's in a tank here. I don't know if I would have thought this, because I suspend a lot of disbelief when I'm watching a movie.
They wanted you to have to suspend none, because holy crap.
I guess so. Like, I know... I mean, the greatest illusion ever is that when someone walks to an exterior door and then into the set, I always believe it, no matter what.
Yeah.
Like, even if the door is swung the wrong way.
You don't think about that.
Like, you don't think about that. They're just inside now.
Yeah.
But this level of detail, knowing you would have the swells, you would have the stuff. She's swimming against the current is really important that you know that. It's a whole lot to try to get into this story, and so much work by D-Neg, by the way. I don't know if I said that initially.
We did not mention it. D-Neg did an amazing job. Because not only did they replace the water, they also had to make her bob up and down more, because a lot of the times the pool was not bobbing nearly as rough as they needed for an actual ocean. So they took the real her, bobbed her up and down, but then a lot of the time when this is happening, she's interacting with people on the boat. Like, they're handing her food or handing her stuff. So they've got a boat that they've had to make bob more, an actress they've had to make bob more and differently because they're different spots, and then they had to make the interactions still match up. And again, they're painstakingly making sure they kept the original performances, and none of them are digidoubles above the water. It's an insane amount of work. Oh, and also they did below the water
stuff.
Like, come on.
It's a wild amount. I can't remember. Oh yeah, here are some examples of where, like, they would be handing stuff to each other, but in the comp they would need to, like, take her and move her higher or lower. Oh, wait, here we go. There we go.
Just pause for a second on one of those frames. Right there, look. The amount of work. Like, look at that wave against the boat right there. A lot of the time, they had to completely replace the boat, because as the boat was rocking more in the water sim, they had to have the parallax of it going side to side that they couldn't take from the plate. So they had to keep the actors but we put a digital boat in. Like oh
right
my
here,
gosh.
like they realized like there would be more Bob in the boat. I think.
Yeah, that shot is one of the really good ones where they're interacting.
Goodness
But
sake.
and then again,
I'm just scrubbing through this.
When they're adding all this water
it's
in,
such an amazing. Like here you can really see the difference between the boat bobbing.
Yeah, that's a digital
look at
boat.
that. Like all of the actors, like anything that is out of the water is still exactly their performance, which is amazing.
Yep. So it's the real actors and her real head, but the boat is completely digital. Then these shots with all this freaking depth of field, like oh my gosh,
great. Yeah, just such an interesting process.
Go watch Nyad.
Yeah,
and just appreciate that every water shot is a visual effect, even though your VFX artist brain is going, why? Surely there's an easier way. Not to tell the story. Surely. This is, yeah.
So, Michael, I figured that we could do sort of a little exercise.
Okay.
Imagine, so obviously, like DNEG developed an entire pipeline, spent, months and countless man years and woman years. Working this process. I can't imagine how much processing and everything went into this. Same deal for ILM with Gladiator. I think that
Indeed.
it's great to shoot practical elements, and if you're Ridley Scott, you don't shy away from visual effects or camera trickery. He knows the final result is just the film, and it doesn't matter what you did to get it there, because people just see the final delivered print. And so Ridley Scott is in our great cadre of directors that acknowledge the VFX work, even if maybe not as out loud, because it's still a better public story to say, like, they filmed this with real boats. But obviously, when you see the amount of digital in this final frame compared to what they're keeping is amazing. But it's so much work. So
much work.
So Michael, if you were, say, handed these two clips and said, okay, so we filmed them practically, we did what everyone has been asking.
Yes.
Can you just can you make them in water?
Uh-huh.
And you have to just, without changing expressions, go, oh, yeah, no problem.
Yeah, sure.
We
can do this. Totally.
Absolutely.
No issues with this.
And they'll say, and in fact, we had our amazing artist, Riccardo Masseroni. Is it Masser? Yeah, Masseroni. Make some concept art for it. So we're imagining, you sort of transform it into this. They've filled the Colosseum with water. The boats are floating along. There's a bunch of atmospherics. They got the rays of sunlight coming in. And here's I think there's a second. I know that I had a second piece of art, which is, I think, this one right here. Here we go. Another, moment of, like these beautiful clashing boats inside the Colosseum. So, again, a reminder, the plates are these things. Could you transform them? And say you had, roughly an hour and 40 minutes to try to prove this.
Uh-huh.
So that's what we're going to do today. We are going to try to demonstrate some of the ways that you might attack a crazy problem like this. And with any luck, we might be able to do some kind of a composite of one of these two shots. And if we don't quite get around to finishing that, I had found this other interesting piece that I did send you. Let me see. Where did I get the original here? Pirates, clips. I think it was this. Here we are. So, one of the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, which we had just mentioned. Oh, and we have some German subtitles for our, in honor of our, home base in Germany here. But they did it's a similar thing. Like they had to add sharks in kind of shallowish water and film some of it in a controlled set in a tank area, but some of it, they had really specific ideas for what they wanted the shots to look like. So they wanted to be able to focus on performance and stunt going properly. And so here they have an exciting dry for wet situation where that scene is going to end up composited together into, a setting like this. So we have several challenges that we could sort of take on. Oh yeah, here's the process.
Completely digital boat, got it.
Replace the boat entirely, add in some environment, add in some CG water, add in some reflections and stuff, and sharks is the last little swipe is the CG sharks and their water interactivity. So a very similar idea to what's happening, and these I believe are it says right there on the screen, MPC doing these. So pretty cool. So one thing that I did, Michael, was I thought this was an interesting shot. So I did grab this. They did a little time ramp there right in the middle, which kind of, which means that the shot was a little bit broken in terms of tracking and stuff like that. But did actually decide that it might be worth our while. I looked down here and they actually have the time code on screen.
Uh-huh.
So I was able to figure out where it was that suddenly it went out of sync with time and grabbed that little piece of the clip and stretched it out with a frame interpolator to try to give us this, which looks a little wonky, but it is effectively this shot playing out roughly in real time. So now here's the fast-forwarded part where it's doing some interpolation, but you sort of get the idea of the slow, steady rotation of that boat and the stunt being pulled off. So I think that between this shot and these two crazy Gladiator shots, we could talk about some different ways that we would approach these, both from a compositing and or a CG perspective. What do you say?
Sure. I mean, there's a ton of things we could talk about in these shots. I mean, first, like, even ignoring the water, we could talk about crowds, because this Coliseum is not full of crowds as it is in the final shot.
It's a good point. I'm noticing this as well.
We could talk about crowd replication, because you've got a good chunk of crowd there, but where the boat's going, they saved the money and didn't put
because here are I know that we had that concept art that we were referring to earlier, but as our vendor, here's more of an idea of what we want this scene to look like when you're done. Okay, so just something like that for this one, and if you want to look back at this shot, we were thinking something kind of like this,
right? Yeah.
So just some.
Because and this is the actual befores and afters, but it's so cool. Like just thinking about doing this battle in real life. Anyway, so crowd replication is something we could talk about, and we could talk about different ways of making water in Cinema 4D or After Effects or both. We don't necessarily have to comp a real shot. But we could just talk about the techniques in general, and we can of course also go around and comping a real shot. There's a little known tool in After Effects that I'm definitely going to talk about at some point during this show, called Wave World, that this shot in particular makes me think of. It wouldn't be, I wouldn't use it necessarily to make this shot, but it makes me think of it because it's got a bounds for a pool and it's got islands, which both of them you could do in Wave World. So I think I'm going to talk about it.
Ooh, I like that.
Michael Palak is saying you can just cover that interpolated section with some splashes, hand waves, maybe a lens flare.
Oh, absolutely.
Kevin Rupp says a lens flare would really tie the scene together. Indeed. Oh, and for those of you who are thinking, hey, Michael is talking about all these chats, but I'm not seeing them in my chat window. Well, let me tell you that this is streaming to more than one channel.
Oh, yes.
So, if you're going, hey, where's all this chat coming from? The main bulk of the chat on this show tends to be on the VFX and Chill channel. If you go to youtube.com/@VFX and Chill, that's where the main stream's going. But before you go to the main channel, make sure you hit a like and subscribe on whatever channel you're watching on right now.
We would love that.
And then hop over to the VFX and Chill YouTube channel, youtube.com/@VFX and Chill. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe there as well. And then you'll be able to join the bulk of the chat with our regulars like Michael Powlak and Frigby Chillweather, who are hanging out in the chat with their normal jokes.
And we're even sometimes randomly joined by like the VFX soup from the film.
Occasionally,
which is
VFX artists themselves are actually here.
Or Todd
that has occasionally happened.
Who is the VFX supervisor of the world and internet. I think
he's you know what, I think VFX supervisor of the internet is a great description for him.
I think that's all you need to know. So Michael, ahead of time, one of the things that I knew we might need, and it's sort of boring, people have talked about it a lot, is crowds. And
it may be boring, but it needs to be done.
It's boring, but yeah, it needs to be done. So I'll talk in a really quick 10 seconds about what I thought about approaching the crowd, which was to just find some stock footage of a crowd. And like, granted, they're going to be pretty small, so it might actually work out okay.
Well, yeah, because they're going to be tiny and far away. Yes, it's fine.
And then I thought, well, these guys are in very modern clothes. It's
right.
And so it might be really obvious. And so I thought, well, if I was just using a reference frame, like I just press the reference frame button in After Effects and kick them out to Photoshop, I could probably like highlight, each character and just say something like ancient Roman tunic outfit. Making sure to select, like leave in their arms and visible like skin, so you could sort of get the posture from them. And
even though Hashi is in Canada and not the US anymore, he feels they do have the right to bear arms.
Yes, it's the one. It's one right we believe in above all others. Is the right to is to cozy arms in your attire. And then I remembered from this very silly trick where if you give After Effects just one frame and then you basically punch holes where you had, previously used all these selections, and then say, run content-aware fill in surface mode, it'll do this. A mild bit of vector tracking. And then this part everyone knows about. You throw it into particular, you make cards, you do stuff, you super comp it together, and you get, this beautifulness. So that's what I did for some of the elements that we prepared for today. I got so distracted doing this that I did not put enough time into the water part of this episode, our water episode. But anyway, look at this.
Wow, it looks so good.
Because you think
it looks so
that's
good.
not enough. That's not enough variety for a crowd. But then you do this. You use the variety, like the color random sampler and particular. You add some light sweeps and you just displace them with the particles, so it looks like light's sort of catching some people a little bit.
Oh, I like that.
Very silly.
That's so
very
good.
Silly. And Russell Crowe, known for his singing. I can't remember what his band is called, but it's a real thing. Anyway, so all that said, Michael, I do have some like pre-rendered crowd elements in case we choose to use them today.
Okay. Good to know.
Excellent. Do you have some stuff set up over there at all? I'd be happy to switch to your screen and share stuff anytime you like.
Sure. I don't have anything currently ready to go, but I will shortly. So like I was saying earlier, I personally, I don't think I'm going to take any of these shots and actually do a full-on recreation of a shot, or at least not right away. I might if I start getting bored later. But I want to talk about all the different ways you can approach shots. Interestingly, when I was learning about the visual effects on that Netflix movie, not Nyad, they said each shot had its own problems, and they had to come up with pretty much a new solution for each shot. And so knowing all the different ways you can approach water shots will help you as you go through things, because you aren't not going to be able to use the same solution for every shot in whatever film or commercial or whatever you're working on. So knowing all the different ways you can make water is useful to have, basically is what I'm saying.
It absolutely is. Now, I see that you have a good old copy of Cinema 4D popped open there.
I do.
Excellent.
Why?
just because I wanted to know what you were thinking about over there.
Well, I was thinking, what am I looking for? I don't even know what I'm looking for. Shift C, XP. What I'm looking for? There we go. Yeah.
What?
So,
cheater.
I know. I have here, right before your very eyes, in this scene here, I've got an ocean made with XP Ocean. Insidium makes X particles very famously, but it's got some other things that are quite useful as well, including XP Ocean, which gives you realistic ocean waves using the Tessendorf stuff. You get high resolution or low resolution if you wanted it, and you can make this, more oceany. And I was going to say, the reason I bring this up is because I don't want to see the work plane there. So here's the thing. When you're doing a very wide VFX shot for the whole thing, you're not going to sim the entire flipping ocean. Mm-mm. Get it? Flip sims. You're not going to sim the entire ocean.
I don't have the drops available today, everyone.
I know. This is probably the week I'm gonna have the most jokes, and we don't have the drops to go. As the chat has been asking for, by the way. Someone was asking for the "Dang It, Michael" drop somewhere around here. Who was asking for it? Oh, Alonso Perez Yaksik was asking for it. And I'm sorry, Patrick GG. No mention for you. Yes, you are a regular too. So there you go. Anyway, so you're not going to want to sim the whole ocean. You can't. There's no computer in the world that has the time to do it. So generally what VFX artists do is they will have some sort of basic thing like XP Ocean here, then do a water sim for like the majority of it as it fades off into the distance, and just do a sim right where the hero stuff is happening. So where the boat is, or where the shark is, or where the person is, and then they blend it into their general overall ocean look. So you can, in XP, you can use XP Ocean to generate an ocean surface. That's pretty large, but you can also use it as a deformer to deform whatever sim you're making. So you can blend from pure sim to the deformed sim to the actual just generic ocean surface, all right in Cinema 4D if you needed to. And of course, Cinema 4D doesn't have water simulations yet, but X Particles does. So you could use X Particles to do your water sim just right here in the middle. And it's got all kinds of cool stuff like it's GPU accelerated. It's got foam and all this other stuff to generate. And then you can deform it based on this and actually kind of blend your scene in. So that's one very important thing to know just right off the bat, that these people are not simming a whole ocean. They're generally simming just, and I should point out, usually just simming a foot or two below the surface just to get the splashes and the initial water interaction on the top going right. Then they blend it into a water surface, just much like this one here, where they've just got the ocean, and you got control over like the height of the waves, the time scales, like how fast it's going, the ocean size. You can make all kinds of things happen with this. How choppy it is. You can blow it too far. But this, speaking of this makes me think of Mir.
That does remind me of Mir,
right? So I was thinking, hey, if I'm making water, in After Effects, and I just need a surface. Like if I'm not looking like this, if I'm looking kind of like this, or maybe even if I am looking like this, maybe I would try some trap code Mir. Let's see, real quick. I'm gonna check with the chat. Hashi, you want to pull something up while I'm checking on the chat? Make sure there's nothing that we're missing.
Absolutely.
Now that I'm actually having to do like a ton of work, I'm having to like jump between chat and working, so it's gonna be a little rougher than usual.
No, we appreciate
Michael
it always.
Michael says they'll close captioning the drops in the chat. Yes, enjoy the chat as he closed captions those. Jason Murphy's asking if the fire alarm's still going. Patrick GG is chiming in that they miss it. Yeah, we don't have the other Patrick here with the fire alarm. Eye Shield says Embergen for water could help. Yeah, but the Embergen's fluids are not in a very completed stage yet. Number one. Number two, they're not quite there for Hollywood level visual effects yet. They're developed, but they are very fast and very fun to play with for look dev stuff. And it's a separate app, so you have to jump out and back and forth. If I were doing water effects, I would still be working pretty much all in Cinema 4D with Insidium's tools for water effects, just because it's all in one spot. But of course, Embergen's liquid effects are excellent and can work well with Cinema 4D.
No, that
tropical mirror is not just for creating mountains. That's true. I'm gonna pop over into that. Hashi, you got anything to show while I'm
I
doing
kind
this?
of do actually. I was going to say I did send to you this pirate's shot. Now, for whatever reason, I couldn't get this to track, which drove me nuts that I couldn't get a proper thing on it. Probably because the middle is sort of interpolated and stuff like that. So what I ended up doing was I just sort of made, a figured out how to just throw a card in there and just sort of track it, like put a little null right here and just have it rotate kind of around the camera to sort of just get the general notion of what's going on. And one of the main reasons I did that is because I wanted to do what I think that you're maybe about to do, which is use an instance of mirror to try to simulate a water surface.
Yeah, mirror. When you first bring it into After Effects, it looks like this. It's a it just looks like some sort of weird abstract motion graphics-y thing. And that's for a couple of reasons. One is that the geometry is kind of overlapping it, and the material that's using this shader here is based on density. Very cool for motion graphics-y stuff.
Oh yeah.
But you're going to want, yeah, right, I mean, it's fine, but you're going to want something more reflective and solid looking rather than see-through. Now, this is Chrome using this Desert Horizon map as its for a sky, but you could use other things like Desert Field, or you could even use stuff that's custom in your scene. Like I've got this clouds here. So we've got this very reflective, but now that's too reflective, obviously. So I'm going to take some of this stuff down, shine, I say the reflectivity, probably up, down some, make this darker in color. There's lots of things you're going to do to make it look less, less bright and shiny. Environment exposure you can fuss with. But more importantly, we get to get this geometry working right. So let's rotate this, make it more. We'll just go to negative 45 for now. We're just going to look it down like it's a water surface. And we're going to mess with this fractal as well, which is, let's make this geometry a little bigger too while we're at it. Tilt it a little bit more, maybe.
Nice. So yeah, you have control over how big the geometry is and also how many subdivisions it has right there. So two different things you're doing right there. I can see that as you're dialing up the number of polys, obviously the resolution of the fractal gets better.
Yes. Indeed. And let's change what this fractal actually looks like. Fractal type is regular, multi, smooth, ridge. We got different kinds of fractals. We could lower the amplitude down, and right away you can see, oh, hey, that's looking more like oceany, watery waves.
More like oceany waves.
Right? Make the reflectivity sharper, and we bring it back up to sharpness. And hey, there you go. Let's scale it some as well. Let's see the frequency. Make it less frequency makes the waves bigger. More frequency. Now, so you've got a pretty, with just a couple of seconds, like if I wasn't fussing around, I would get to this spot in, a minute or two. And you've got kind of almost a believable water surface.
That looks a lot like that one shot.
Right. Right? I'm not saying they used After Effects and mirror in it, but it's a good way to get close to it. But you've got this wacky horizon line here. Well, you've got the ability in the visibility to fog things out to a color. And then, of course, you can then put in other colors using gradients and fractal noise and stuff at the top. But you can say, hey, instead of disappearing like here, let's bring, you can bring things in like a lot closer. Say the fog starts maybe 3,000 out, and let's say 5,000. I'm just guessing on these numbers. That's not far enough. Let's try 1,000 out, and that's too close. 2,000. But anyway, you fuss with these settings, and then you get, let's see, we'll call this solid mirror. Duplicate it, and this will be sky. And for the sky, get rid of mirror. We're going to do just a gradient ramp with some fractal noise.
Classic.
Oh, set to overlay. And just a little tiny bit.
Look at that. Nice overcast sky.
Up.
Look at that.
Oh, I should probably be zoomed all the way out instead of, my mirror's not big enough now. Make my mirror bigger. There we go. That's why. Okay. Not messing with that right now. Back to our sky. Let's put it up here some, and then we'll, just tint it sky colors. So like a light blue there to put that below our mirror sky, and put our mirror further down. Rotate it down more. -90. A bit down. And if we pick this to be the same color our sky is, let's see, pick the sky color. Go back to
honestly just works so well.
There you go. Like you've got a sky. Now the sky's not probably needs to be bluer, like a purpler color to match that one. So we'll just tweak it up a little bit. There you go. And like in a couple seconds, you've got pretty close to photorealistic ocean scene without really having to do much of anything.
That is delightful looking. Look at that. It's a tropical happy ocean.
Right? And of course, this being mirror, you can adjust it to do, a rougher ocean surface, and you can make it animate, of course. Just make it scroll so that like it's automatically, you can make it like animate. I didn't keyframe it, of course, but so you keyframe the evolution, you can keyframe its, offset, or it's scrolling. See, was this? Animate whatever you need. Back to our fractal, and you can make it choppier with it, more amplitude, all that kind of good stuff. And of course, you can tweak all these other settings too to really affect how the ocean looks. I would be remiss not to mention the old plugin Tsunami, RIP. The old gal did great work. They used it on Titanic, amongst other things. It was slow and old and has not been maintained, but never forget.
Never forget.
Tsunami, we miss you.
Now, one thing that I wanted to show off that sort of kind of along these lines. So if you had, say, your footage of them and this really bad camera track that I had, one of the things that I love to do for the bottom of boats is a big old garbage mat. But what I like to do on that garbage mat is add a couple of instances of roughen edges. And so one is kind of a bigger spiky one like this. And then the second is just either a regular or a smaller spiky one, so you can just get little fine details. So if you're going to see that mat doing this, you just need something loose and garbagey, and what it'll do is it'll make this nice little ripply edge to help cut out something. So for example, I can use this as an alpha mat, and I'm also using Trapcode Horizon right now just to put a little sky map in the background there. And if you were to combine this with what you were just doing, Michael, which is you add an instance of mirror and you kind of blend them together, you can start to get a pretty neat, kind of like watery look. This is very preliminary and very fast or whatever, but it's neat because mirror can reflect the environment, and you can throw in, it's actually being lit by two little lights, an ambient and a little point light. So this point light I could move, right now I have it moved down back here, so I can kind of, simulate what kind of light they've got going on there. This isn't the best match, but you kind of get it. And one really fun thing that I also employed was an instance of our very own VFX reflection, which is just a super fun plugin. I'm going to delete it for a second and then reapply it to one of these because it's just so fun. So I'm going to apply it to its own instance of this rotoed boat. Let's see, here we are, reflection. And right away, look at that. It's got this nice little interface like this where I can just draw this little line and say, hey, yeah, I want a reflection of this boat, basically. And I can say, I want to make sure that the reflection is, like, what direction does it point? what are the things that it's got to be under or whatever. I can set its mode to be behind the original boat layer, kind of like that. So it's kind of hidden behind it. And then comes the fun stuff. So there are some wonderful controls in reflection, such as if I go down here, I can select a displacement map. And because mirror exists on top of a solid, I could select the layer that I have mirror on, and then tell it that I would like it to use the effects and masks from it as a displacement map. So if I were to, say, vertically displace this image, look at that.
Look at that.
It displaces it from the pixels of the image below it. So if you had stock footage of water or whatever, this would work. And if you have mirror, it interactively works. So I have a reflection now of this boat. One thing that you'll notice is if I drag this all the way up, you start to get this crazy sky reflection. But you can just go to the displacement fall off and dial that up a little bit to get rid of that. So it's not trying to wrap around. It's trying to make up imagery to pull down if it needed. You also have controls over the softness, so I can soften out this reflection. Right now it's a progressive linear, but I could also use a progressive square or a, I only have vertical displacement. Let me turn on some horizontal and then we'll get it going. Yeah. Super, super reflective water. You can obviously dial up, the opacity of the reflection to try to get it to taste. If I were really comping this, I would try to make sure that I was killing some of these highlights there. But all things considered, just adding this one plugin is great because, look at that. You can see it, it moves around with the. Actually, I want to check this box is reflection only. That way, I'm getting that the combination of everything. I'm getting the boat that we have matted with the that little rough and edges solid, and I have my reflection, which is all behind it. And if I want, I could set keyframes on my, on the positioning of where this little reflection T is. So I can bring the reflection all the way down to here, or maybe just right like there, make that little paddle line up. And now I can just do this all
Alonso,
in comp
about
kind
this
of
reflection plugin. Alonso asking, is this a VFX and Chill proprietary plugin? If you're asking about the reflection plugin, no, it is not. That is part of VFX Suite. And you can get it right now in your Max on One or Red Giant subscriptions.
It's so great. And it just, the addition of the displacement maps makes it one of my very favorite things. You'll notice that since I have the horizontal displacement turned up, I'm compensating for the angle because it's, depending on what side of gray it's on, it'll start to slant in that direction. But that's why you have these slant controls, so you can just really try to dial it in exactly as much as you need. This is obviously too chromatic of an ocean we got going on here, but we've used reflection a lot in some stuff, and already. This isn't a horrible, horrible comp. It's not good yet, but you could get it there without a dramatic amount of work.
Right.
Considering it's I'm just loosely tracking this, and I haven't even super comped any of this stuff yet. I can also do one of my favorite sheets for if I didn't have time to super comp is that I just throw an adjustment layer way up top with optical glow, set to an amount 1, and then turn it up a little bit, and then I get kind of an insta super compy kind of look. I could dial up the highlights only, so it's more sky glow. There you go. Done. Ship it.
Literally. Ship. Get it? Like a boat.
Amazing. Now, obviously, one of the big things that we're lacking is any interactivity of, little wakes or, peaks or bubbles and things like that. And there are definitely a lot of different ways you could start to go about getting those into your comp. I'm going to switch just to our faces for a second while I pull in a video that I meant to have preloaded. So apologies while I find this here. What was it called? Sorry, this is very exciting.
We really do need that drop.
We really do. Yeah, I have two ones that I'll bring up. So, back in, like you might actually even be watching right now live from our Action Movie Kids channel. But back then, I did a couple of fun dry for wet shots. This was the one that people loved. This is the one that gets posted by
I
everyone.
love this one. This one's so good. Yeah.
And
well, no
my
wonder.
lovely wife Mandy reminded me, I'd completely forgotten about this one. Employing all the same techniques of basically, you have to, I have a full breakdown of this somewhere on the Action Movie Dad channel. It's largely thanks to this cool stock element from Pond 5, which was a CG water simulation doing basically what Michael was doing, but rendered out with some nice shaders on it. And then just me doing a little bit of rotoing around everything and putting them together. Another video that was quite similar in nature was this Jaws video where you know it, you love it. It's Jamie running around in our living room with a fake ocean and fighting a shark. And this was all done through a very silly combination of all of the types of techniques we're talking about right now. The main one, honestly, was just using these kind of cutting out the furniture and creating little stand-in things. And you can see it really clearly right here. My little rough and edges trick is just what's matting out all of these. And then then you can see a little bit of the couch below, and it's just using the same matte, but to blur, the stuff behind. And all of that just creates a matte for this real water plate. And then I'm just screen compositing together a whole bunch of different little specific elements like I'd find a wave crashing on like a little piece of rock, so I would just feather composite that out together. But it all kind of comes together in a neat way, like colorblindness aside, but it creates a fun effect.
I think it looks great.
Thank you. So fun stuff. Let's see here. Well, I know that we got into the show talking about Gladiator and have not actually gotten back to any of our Gladiator shots. So I thought maybe I'll try taking a look at one of these shots and seeing what I could do about compositing this. And also, if we have any fun questions from the audience, I'm happy to go to them. And Michael, you let me know if you want me to switch to your screen at any.
Oh, sure. Anyway, Black's asking, does anyone in the industry use thinking particles? Yeah, they were used still in some places for things, but a lot of people are starting to use other tools, like not Cinema 4D so much, but other places they still do. Some nice wants you to add a tiger to get life of Pirates of the Caribbean, which is fun.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. Tragic's asking, how would one kill those specific highlights? A track solid?
What I would likely do is something that I did in the my Aquaman tutorial, one of them, where for the reflection channel, I added basically right now what that let me see, I'll go back to it. Don't save or do I don't remember if I did anything. All right, so to kill these highlights, the reason they're there is because if I just solo my mirror layer, you can select, here's mirror, and if you scroll down to the bottom here, you can see under, I guess, material, reflections and lighting, and the environment map, I have the mirrored sky selected. So what it's doing is it is reflecting what I have projected on this horizon layer. Horizon, takes like a 360 map and maps it out so as the camera looks around, you sort of see it in the background there. And so you can sort of see more clearly that what it's trying to reflect is this sky. So what I did in that Aquaman tutorial is instead of using, a 360 map like this, I actually made a reference. So, for example, if I were doing it here, let's actually do it. I'm going to pre-compose the 360 map that's getting environment. And then this part takes a little bit of guesswork. I figured it out with the in the Cheap Tricks episode or whatever, but I'm going to be making it up right now. Basically, you take your sky map and you squash in at some scale, I don't remember what, that like sort of makes it similar to what you're actually seeing in the camera. So here, this is going to be weird. It's going to be too big right now. But if I go back to here, you'll see that it's added the rotoed pirates, and to the image right here. And what I would actually probably do is if I turn all my layers back on, you can see that I have this environment shot and I have this plate where mirror is trying to reflect what is above it on this sky here. And I could do this. I could say the old classic After Effects trick where you go up here and you select your composition tab and then you go view new viewer. And what that does is it creates a copy of whatever comp you were just in over here, and it's locked, meaning it'll stay visible. And let me give it a little bit more space. And now this composition window is my active comp. So if I switch to environment, it switches this to environment, but it still is showing me what would happen in, one comp down. So now I can see in here that I have this, I'm moving these pirates around here. And what I could do is if I make them bigger at some point, oh, you know what? I've got to double check. I have to double check that in my mirror composition that it is reflecting the environment. And it's, wait, let's see. Custom environment is the full environment and its effects and masks. Okay. Now let me just double check if that is updating. I feel like, okay. I'm trying to tell if it's actually updating or if it is. Oh, I feel like I know that this might be a little bit weird. Okay, now I know it should be reflecting where it's supposed to be, but let me double check. If mirror needs to be refreshed, I'm just going to move my point light a little bit so it'll recalculate mirror. And now I feel like I'm demonstrating something and it's not working. What if I say source? That changes the effect. If I say effects and mask. Maybe I'm not going far enough, or my highlight strength is too strong. Let me see. If I just see mirror, can I see that when I move this, it's changing the reflection? Oh, no, I can't. I think this is one of those visual updater issues. I can't remember what it is. Anyway, I'm going to shut up now because I'm just digging myself into a hole. I remember that this was an issue back in the day, but I don't know why it's happening now. Anyway, yeah, Michael, what are you working on over there? I can see your screen, and I'm curious.
Oh, if you hang on just what, yeah. Sorry. So I'm, no, it's fine.
I'll switch to you for a second while I figure out what I broke over here.
Okay, so you might say, what are all those kind of wavelength-looking microscopic-y electron, whatever looking things you've got going on there?
Michael, what are those weird wavy-looking microscope electron-looking things you got going there?
I'm excited to tell you about it. First of all, I'm trying to find one thing. There it is. Reflect edges. All. Let's see. Frequency 2, maybe? Okay, what I'm working with right here is something called Wave World. When you apply it first to defaults, it looks like this, which is, well, not quite like that, but similar to that, which is very boring because I've already got expression in there. So what it is to do the wireframe preview on here real quick. You kind of see we've got, which is, it's kind of useful for some FUI type stuff perhaps, but you've got like this water surface, this like ground, like what is all this stuff? And how is it useful? Well, this is for generating waves. This is the wireframe preview, so you kind of see what the waves should be looking like, and this is the height map that it generates. So I've got something making a wave here, something making some waves here, and you can say, hey, how much do these waves dissipate here in the simulation? Like how much damping is there? How fast are the waves moving? Like is this a small body of water, a large body of water? Anyway, and do these waves bounce off the edges or not? So right now I've got some damp being turned on, and I've got some stuff moving around to give me some kind of wavy looking things. Got this little thing happening over here. I'm going to kind of move that producer off to the side. Will it let me do that? It will. It will. Yes, it will. So I've got some waves coming from the side. Let me pre-roll this some, actually. 3 seconds. So I've already got some waves in the scene. And what I'm doing with this is I'm driving this whole scene that's happening with Wave World. So we've got waves happening. We've got stuff moving. So we've got that waves happening off the side. Those are probably too big. I was getting a little too excited there, so we'll close 0.1. So yeah, we got some... We got waves. This is the caustics effect, native After Effects tool called caustics. So these are both native. Wave World and caustics are both native. Caustics says, hey, what's the bottom of the pool look like? Or I shouldn't say pool, but body of water. I'm using a pool for demo purposes, just so it's easier to see what's going on. What's the bottom look like? And I'm just using this pool bottom scene here, which is just some. I'll walk you through it. Fractal noise, just to give me some, changes in color. Mosaic over top of it to give me the pool tiles. This thing called Sandwich Top and Sandwich Bottom is a free tool from Battle Axe that's called the Transform Sandwich. There's a great tutorial from Jake in Motion on it. Basically, it's got 2 transform effects, but they're connected with expressions, so that anything I do with this transform effect is mirrored in this one. And the reason I've got them on is because this one is just moving it up a little bit, this is moving it down. But so this grid lines up with the mosaic. And this is just a native grid effect. But without the transform sandwich, if I zoom in here, you'll see that it doesn't line up. So I was using transform sandwich to move the grid around. So when I move it up, basically it looks like it's moving the grid effect. Basically any effect that doesn't have its own transformation properties, like this grid, this lets you kind of fake it. So I could even, if I rotated it, get kind of a diamondy looking grid, even though the grid doesn't let you do that necessarily natively. Because all I'm doing is rotating it one way up here, applying the grid, and then re-rotating it back. So that everything else stays flat, but whatever's between these gets churned or just slid into place. So basically, we've got fractal noise, mosaic, moving it up and moving it down so that the grid lines up correctly, then tritone. So this gives us our bottom of the pool. Go back out here. And pardon any noises in the background, the washing machine is in its spin cycle. So we got a pool bottom. We've got wave world happening. We've got caustics, which is pretty much everything. It's the caustics render, and then we've got the little VFX and Chill logo. And I've tied the producer, because Wave World has two producers. By default, only one of them's active.
It's classic on films
boing,
as
boing,
well.
boing, boing, boing. Yeah. Basically, by default, the producer just punching into the water, making splashes. I've said, hey, don't be punching in with this frequency, just nothing. Something is pushed in the water, and we've got this VFX and Chill logos moving around, and with expressions, I've tied the position of this thing. So it's just pushing through the water, making all these ripples happen here. It's kind of neat. Now, and I've got it so that all the waves are bouncing off the sides here. So you can see it gets pretty realistic water motion. This would be great for an over-the-top shot. Just instead of having the caustics effect be showing a pool bottom, you would just have it be like, emptiness or something else. And you wouldn't need the caustics reflectiveness or anything. But what's also really cool is if I go back to my wave world effect here, go to the wireframe preview. In addition to saying whether or not it reflects where the producers are and stuff, you can also set the ground of the effect. You'll see here, I've got these ground effects here. So you can say how close to the bottom is this, like how deep is this body of water, for example. So you can say, it's quite shallow as a matter of fact, or it's quite deep.
You get some feedback from the ground.
Yes, and it feeds back through. So now my waves are going absolutely nuts.
Look at that.
Because this is pushing in a little too hard. So if I say, hey, this amplitude should maybe be 0.1 instead, we'll get a little bit more calmed down. But I'm going to maybe up to 0.12. I think that looks a little better. But not only that, but you can say, hey, this is what I was thinking earlier. I can have a layer push islands through.
What?
So I'm using this layer here, this ground layer here, which is just some fractal noise. Prove fractal noise in terrain mode, scaled up a bit and such. So I've got this effect. So where it's black, it's full deep. Where it's white, it's full high, and then any grayscale values are mapped between them. So my wave world is now looking like this. I've got some depth in there, but overall, I've got these couple of islands pushed through. And all of that together is just making it so that this height map, I've got this island and this island, and they're going to react to the water. And you can actually keyframe all this stuff too, for example. So I could say, hey, you have no height to this ground, then let's push the islands through somewhere around here, let's say. So ground, we'll push it through, and we'll say, was it 0.4 was the default? So we'll kind of make it show up, and then under the wave, since it's animated, it makes the waves push out. You can see the waves here. If I turn that off and we just back to the caustics, you can watch as the waves pop in, as those islands pop in. But now all the waves and stuff are going to react to it. I'm going to turn off the keyframes for the wave world on the height. Don't want those keyframes there. I want the islands just be there all the time. And so you can say, hey, these things are going to be here just all the time. And the water bounces off. See how all those reflections are bouncing off of the ground there? Like, not reflections, but like the waves, like they're reacting like there's actually ground there. Like, it's great. Like, this is ridiculously powerful for the fact that it's giving you this simulated water surface. Now, I'm using this in After Effects in basically a two-dimensional scene, because this is all completely two-dimensional. But this wave world map that I'm putting out, this grayscale map, can be used in Cinema 4D to drive a height displacement on any effect. So I could put a plane in Cinema 4D that symbolizes my water surface and use this output from Wave World here as a displacement map, or not in the material. I'd probably use it as a deformer as a displacement map for a deformer in Cinema 4D to have a nice believable water surface, probably on top of some Maxon noise inside Cinema 4D, just to give it more of a watery surface, and then use this on top to have the islands or or buoys or whatever you've got in a scene reacting to the water. So it's just a really great way to get some very complex water simulation in After Effects natively. No one knows this is here, except for those who've watched Jake and Motion's tutorial series or a very old series on Creative Cow on how to drop the cow logo into a pool of water.
Dang.
Yeah.
That is some.
Oh, there are some questions
deep
for you,
knowledge
by the way.
There. Holy cow.
Someone's asking if you had a shark vacuum. Michael Palak saying, is that a shark vacuum? Justin Leduc is commenting on the classic virality of your clip with the orange hoodie and the blue water. You got the orange-blue palette going on. But the questions, I said you had questions. Yes, you have questions. Patrick, who had a question? I know someone had a question. It looks like Hashi had a mask removing. Someone's asking, BLF is saying, are you using different mats for on top of the sofa and below in the jumping around the room scene?
Because I needed to. The problem with that room was that it had white furniture over like off-white carpeting, so everything was bright. So and like water is very dark, and so to composite a bunch of dark, like ocean-looking water into the scene, let's see, I can probably reopen it. Where did I just? I just remembered where it was. Okay, so it's in this folder. In this folder, I'm staying on your screen while I just dive deep into here one more time.
Okay, cool. While you're looking for that real quick, I will mention, now I know some of you are thinking, hey, I can get some really complex effects by animating my ground. Unfortunately, the wave world effect cannot handle an animated ground is the parameters here. So if you try to say, hey, I want to have some animation happening here, even if it's in a pre-comp, it doesn't matter. It's going to grab the first frame or wherever we have here, and that's your ground. So don't get all cute and think you can animate the islands showing up and disappearing and getting some really wacky
clever
and waves out of it. You can't.
That is exactly what I just realized about Mirror and its environment channel. It grabs it from the first time you link a custom environment to it from that frame, and it keeps it there.
Yeah,
it's not a live update situation. So apologies. I was going to try to show how to cut out the reflection by moving it interactively, and it didn't work. And that's why.
There's some love in the chat for Dave Larond. Yes, the old Creative Cow chat. Yes.
Dave Larond. That looks beautiful, Michael.
Yeah, thank you.
That.
It's a lot. It's a lot of fun. I want to turn that down to 0. There we go.
I love that. I think you should comp in or export a reference frame of what those islands look like, and then just add little tropical islands on top of them in generative fill or something really like that.
I mean, I would need to make this an ocean bottom and probably make it deeper as well. There's a lot of stuff I would probably want to do with this.
Definitely.
But
I was
affect the steepness of it.
I was pulling this back up. Yeah, someone was asking. Yes, what I did have to do was, let's see, I'll go to the widest part of this, for example. So I did need to make a little matte line kind of for each piece of furniture that had a roughen edges on it. That was sort of, would let some footage spill over top and some look like it was going below like that. But then I would need to do stuff since it's sort of a top-down view, I would need the front leading edge of this couch cut out. I would need the leading edge of that cut out. I needed Sophia insanely rotoed out of here. And only then could I have another mat that was blurring these things below it. But because of the white carpet, I likely had all of the above water and the below water copy of each of these pieces of furniture for any of the shots where you can see them well. Here's one where I kind of just half effort, just reflected it down like that. And the same thing for here. I probably manually tried to copy what the window reflection would look like. This is an, arguably all CG composited shot. I had some roto actually from this. It's actually this same shot, just forced into silhouette enough that it sort of looked like an underneath shot, and just went for letting the dramatic lighting help sell this. There's some trap code shine, some particular particles swinging around in there, and coupled with this piece of stock footage that is like someone throwing a rock into a pond. I used that same piece of stock footage over and over again just because it's this nice little, like, reasonably scaled splash. It's probably right here too, yeah. It's the background splash behind, and then I have some, stock splash composited in front. I wish I had Super Comp or Rotobrush or any of the great things. And then, yeah, look, the punchline is that it's, we actually didn't have a shark vacuum, and so, but that was the gag, is that it's mom vacuuming. My beautiful wife and beautiful kids. Oh, the hearts. But yeah, anyway, I was skipping over to here where I've done some, I've rotoed these ships, and here's what I was thinking. I've got them very poorly rotoed here, but it probably doesn't matter too much. Then I have this stock piece of water right here, which I can sort of line up sort of with them. It's a nice little piece. And then I'm going to pretend that I had this matte painting from VFX. So really, okay. If I were to try to do this, I would honestly probably try to figure out how to do some kind of content-aware fill, generative fill on the original plate, which looks like, let's see, this here. So you can see that they used, some of what was really there. Some of this stuff, some of that set and whatnot. But then when I turn this on, you can sort of see that they used part of the set, but then added a whole nother tier of people and everything else. So what I'm putting together right now is kind of this background moving piece of water, which actually kind of works pretty nicely with the speed of that. This bad roto job is bothering me though, so I'm going to maybe, let me see if I can shrink the matte in a little bit more even. Let's add some matte choker. It's softened, and turn up that softness a little bit. Okay, so now I have that ship, this ship, and what I could do then is I could add. I'm going to pre-compose this water card, which I'll set right there, and then I'll say layer pre-compose. That way it, let's see, move everything into the new comp, and we'll just call this the water footage. And now it's its own comp. And so if I go to my foreground ship that is rotoed, I can add a good old instance of reflection. Whoops, wrong ship. I'm still going to apply a reflection to both, but here's this first ship. Look how great it is. It just comes in and immediately adds beautifully. All right, so I'm just going to line this up to sort of work, and then I'm going to go to its settings, turn up the softness. I could turn down the opacity. Spider-Man, turn down the opacity. And
turn down for what?
And look at this. Like already that amount of... I'm still in my zoomed in view. Sorry, I'm not showing my actual interface. So already starting to get more of a, reflection look here. But then we'll do the other things that we'd mentioned. We can go to the reflection effect here and say displacement map. Let's use that water footage as a displacement map, and we'll horizontally displace this. So look at that. It's really cool. So you can see that it's displacing it using the footage below it, which is really cool because that's not something that you typically get to do in After Effects. Just like referencing, getting such a cool effect out of one thing. I can soften the reflectiveness a little bit and maybe give it a little bit of vertical displacement too. Let's see, which way would it? Oh, it's downward. Oh, maybe that was my issue on the other one. Anyway, there we go. So now it's reflecting this ship in the foreground. I'm going to just copy this whole instance of reflection over to the other ship and see what happens if I drag this over here. This would be a slightly different reflection profile here. I can put it kind of like, I feel like we're at such a great angle that in real life, this reflection would look really long, actually. I always forget exactly how the optics work on this, but I think at angle, you start, especially something bright, reflects very long down something because all of the highlights are hitting every single point of light that reflects it toward camera or toward you, the viewer. So I'm going to need to sort of compensate for it not hitting the back of the boat there. And maybe I don't need it to be so tall, whatever. Anyway, I'll put that there, and I can go over to my reflection blend settings, and I can adjust the gamma a little bit, or the brightness, so I can kind of get, specific effects. I might even modify it on my on this ship too. If I go to this ship reflection, I'll probably turn the gamma up a little bit, so it's more like it's cutting out the ambient light where it's reflecting there. And then I'll actually stretch it out because that white part is reflecting down here, but I don't think that it would. I think it would actually all look blocked out like that. So already, this is coming along.
Of course it is.
It always comes along. It's more watery than it was before. Now, obviously, there's no interactivity from either of these boats. Oh, and I should switch the reflection mode on this to... what am I looking for? Behind. There we go. Now it goes nice and behind that. So now I'm going to try... Michael, should I switch to you? Do you have some cool stuff? I'm just going to dig through some stock footage.
You can switch to me if you'd like. I've got an interesting water surface going on here.
All right, let's see. Whoops, what am I doing there? There we go.
There you go. A nice 3D water surface happening. Now this one.
Wait, what is that coming? What did you make that in?
That's trap code form.
Baby.
I was thinking, if I wanted to just build my own wave system,
and who wouldn't?
I could with just there's just fractal noise, just one instance of fractal noise with the perspective offset turned on and animated, so it's looking like that. I'm using this as a map in trap code form. Also, we could do this in particular as well. So down in the displacement, I'm saying, hey, just displace over X and Y, or just displace individual X, Y, Z over Z, mapping over X and Y. So I'm using that basically to push the particles around. And I just have, if I make this really extreme, you can just say I've got just a crap ton of particles, and I'm coloring them also based on the map. So the heights of the waves are, a little sharper. I have that like lighter color. But that means that if I want to fuss around with how these waves look, I could probably, let's see, if I can just do it right here, make it more contrasted and darker this way. So we have fewer, and I'm going to do, let's see, parametric curve here. I love parametric curve. Those of you who are unfamiliar,
this is a beautiful hidden
tool.
Gem.
Yeah. So when you're fussing around with, let me just show the basic curves effect and explain why I like this one better. By curves. So say you're like, I want my black point to stay the same, white point to stay the same, and I want my midpoint to stay the same, but I want just this part to get brighter. And you're like, well, yeah, but this part's getting darker. I don't want it to. I just want this part getting brighter. You put a point up there, but look, like
They're
now it's
so
going up.
finicky.
When I move this down, that goes down. Like it's just and I hate it. So now I will say they did make it bigger now, so you can actually get a bigger user interface now, which is a nice thing. But that's about the only change that this curves effect has had in the history of After Effects, is that they've let you make it bigger to give you a little bit more control over it. But parametric curve is a new kind of curve effect. First difference you notice is I've got controls right here on the screen, which is kind of cool. And I've got a little dotted line that extends past. What on the heck is going on here? So this works in full HDR overbright. If you're in a 32-bit comp using overbright monitor, you can actually go way overbright. And this shows you where...
Whoops. Wait, you're breaking up there. I don't know if that's on
beyond
everything. Say that one more time, Michael.
Oh, it's probably my internet. It's probably my end. This works fully HDR, so this little line is where the value is going after this last dot. Let me reset this real quick. But you'll notice, here, let me add another dot here, up here. Oh, not that one. Let's do this one here. And notice when I move this dot around, nothing happens beyond here, because this is all being controlled by Bezier handles. So if I wanted that to go down or up, I can make it do so. But I don't have to. When I move this point around, nothing either side of it is affected. So you are able to have that full control that you probably want, but without all that annoyance. It's great. Lets me do everything I want. Let me reset this real quick. And what I want, and let me turn off the overlay. It's kind of, I don't particularly care for it.
You're sharpening them points.
But it's there if you want it.
I think I understand why.
Yeah, show overlay off. Yeah, I'm just wanting to make that wave heights have very specific heights right there. And yeah, that's what I'm going for anyway. So that my waves get a bit more choppy. Oh, I need to have a few more particles in them though. Let's see if I can I lessen the number of particles in X and just bump up the number in Y? Oop, not 5,000. 500. Well, I need more now that I've made those waves so dramatic. Yep, need more. Just to keep pushing until you get the particles all filling it in. But you get the idea.
Yeah, we love the idea.
Just tons of particles. Now you could do this if you don't have Trapco tools. You can kind of do this natively with CC ball action. And again, so sorry, folks, that we don't have the drop. You're going to have to imagine. You're going to have to imagine the music and the spectacle. But yeah, you can use maps to drive CC ball action as well. But it works kind of a little differently to form, and I kind of like the way form works better overall. But yeah, so there's yet another way to get yourself a water surface. This one's a little bit more stylized, but it works.
That's cool
for motion graphics-y things.
Super cool.
Yes, Patrick, and yes, to the chat, parametric curve is very cool. It's very technical. Like another really cool thing about it, let me go back down to the parametric curve, is that the name parametric, why is it called parametric? Because if you notice here, you've got control over each control point. Let me just do the mid one here, control point 3. You've got keyframeable control over the tangents on it, or the position in X and Y, keyframeable individually, the angle that it's bent at, and how far out the tangents reach on either keyframeable. All the parameters of parametric curve are keyframeable. And that also means that you can nail down, I want this midpoint to be exactly in the middle. Great, it's exactly in the middle. You can get it to the exact value of middle, which you can't do with the regular curves effect very easily.
It's great.
So again, very handy.
And I'm sorry, guys, because I was only half paying attention, but did you explain that it can do the inverse?
Oh, I did not. Holy crap. No, I didn't. Another really cool thing about it is that you can apply the inverse of the curve. So if I just hit apply inverse curve, you'll see that I have the curve is swapped. So whatever controls I make up here is then swapped to basically to undo the effect. Let me get a piece of footage in here. Just any footage, Gladiator footage. Well, here, I'll just grab this piece of footage right here real quick. So, parametric curve.
Oh, do it on the depth, actually. Wait, no, never mind.
No.
It's good.
For what I'm showing, this is where I'm going to need to go. Not parametric EQ. I want parametric curve. I get para. My good lord. Parametric curve. So this is kind of neat. If you say, hey, this is maybe this way, kind of has that S curve on it. Yeah, we'll do that. We'll say that's what it is, and we'll basically what I'm doing for those who are kind of like following along is I'm basically recreating an ACES type of workflow. So with these effects, so I'm doing a curve, then I'm undoing the curve, and then whatever I sandwich in between these two. So let's just do like I'll just put Colorista in there, not Colorama, Colorista.
I've been there.
Throw Colorista in here. So now if I do, let's say, let me twirl some of this stuff up. Not you. Three-way. Twirl up, twirl that up, twirl that up, twirl the tone curve. Okay. So if I do like temperature, for example, I get a very different look, put a temperature up this way versus this way. See? So it's a neat way of like,
nice.
So if you happen to know, basically, if you happen to know what kind of curve your, say, iPhone is putting on something, which is probably more like this.
Oh, yes. Which, first of all, please disable the HDR dynamic setting and your video.
You can keep it if you want it. Then invert it. And then you do color grading. Like, anyway, it's a fun way to do like less destructive color grading because it does it inside the sandwich of the HDR-iness of things. It's anyway
inside the
basically
sandwich.
Recreating ACES. I
like that.
Yep. This is an episode of sandwiches. We've had two different. We've the transform sandwich and the parametric curve sandwich. It's a sandwichy episode.
Wild. Yeah.
Okay, I was going to show something else, but I've completely forgotten what it was because I got distracted with how cool parametric.
All right.
Curve
Well,
is.
You think about that. What I did was I found this piece of footage that looks like this. It's this little, crashing wave against a shore line. I kind of like this thing. And so I warp stabilized it to try to keep it still. I guess I must have undid it at some point. And then I applied CC power pin on this little region right here, but inverted. So it stretches out that area kind of to like a card in a way. And then I grabbed a copy of that, Primat keyed out the top edge and kind of faded out the bottom. So now I have this little piece that kind of reminds me of what I was using in that shark video. So I kind of have, it's kind of like a more opaque edge or whatever, but I could stick it back here, like in front of the water footage, and make it look like the edge of the arena has, some water splashing up against it like this or something. And I could even probably turn down the opacity of this layer just a little bit. And then if I press play, you'll get like this little, actually I should reverse the angle. Though maybe it helps because you have the water drifting this way. You've got waves moving this way because of this boat coming out. You know what? No, it visually does betray it. So I'm going to grab that little water's edge piece and flip it like this. Computer is struggling a little bit to stream and do this business at the same time, but you'll see what we're doing. Here we go. Now the waves are hopefully all moving in the same direction. Oh no, that does look wrong. I guess this is why you need just the right stock footage for the right job. I'm just gonna scale it down and hope that works. There we go. Look at that. It's totally believable and animated edge. I love it. Why am I getting such lousy playback right now? Probably have too many things open somewhere. I'm going to save this. Michael, did you remember what you were going to show us? Oh, wait, I can't hear you.
Yes, I do.
There we
Sorry.
go.
I had things muted because I had a dog whining in the background. So
Classic.
anyway, yeah, you can hop over to my screen and take a look.
Woo. Hey,
Uh,
I know those guys.
right? I do. We would be remiss if we didn't mention that there is freaking full-on 3D fluid sims in Trapcode Particular and Form, and that you can have them like interacting with each other and whatnot. So here you go.
Hey, look at that.
You could do all kinds of cool stuff with this. Let me kind of talk you through some of the basics of it just real quick. But first I need to kind of get back to clean start. Here we go. All right. So from the beginning, if we have just particles spewing out, let's get some prettier particles. Pick random from gradient and color gradient. Whatever. Random from gradient. We got colors. Pretty colors. And then under the simulation settings, you can just say, hey, I would like to enable fluid dynamics, please. And boom, you've got fluid dynamics happening now. We've got them all happening in a point, which we probably don't want. So we'll have a little sphere here. We'll make this a much smaller sphere, though, 50. And then you've got different kinds of settings. This is just basic buoyancy with some swirl. Vortex ring is probably my most favorite one here. Kind of spew stuff up, but I want to make this one. Let's see, vortex ring and vortex tube is also a fun one. I've used vortex tube one for lots of things.
I love vortex tubes.
Yeah, let me make this bigger for. My Wacom is double clicking for me unnecessarily. Make this a bit bigger for the vortex tube. So it gets a really cool swirling motion going on. I used this one in the music video for Aesop Rock's Jazz Hands to make the trash swirl around to the chap.
Oh, that's I loved the results you got there. They're really cool.
Thank you. It was a really fun way of working. But yeah, so you go. We got some nice fluid sims, and I'm gonna put some more oomph on the vortex there. Neat, fun,
amazing. So all I've done in here while you're doing that is I just added 2 copies of the water edge piece of footage. I think I'm going to darken this side a little bit right here. Maybe I'll darken its highlights a little bit. So, because it looks like this side is sort of bright, I guess, and it should be a little darker over here. But now here's what I have going. So there's a bit of like watery stuff going on now. We're still missing this huge sail on fire and a shark and some interactivity from the water. So I'm going to have to try to solve something about that real quick. So we'll see what I can do. First of all, I'm just going to cheat and scale up my ship's layer because I was sick of that bright flickery piece up here. One element that I created, and I don't know if I'm actually going to use it for anything on here, is I used a Blaze plugin depth scanner to give myself this depth map. Now, what would be fun about something like this is if I had, say, a lovely action VFX piece of footage. For example, let me see if I have some, let's see, ground emission. I feel like I should have some lovely fog and atmosphere. Maybe I saved it. No, I called it something. I called it the wrong thing the first time. Action VFX. What are they called? Lingering fog. There we go. I'm going to grab some of these, just some fun stuff from Action VFX in general. I'll put them in a little folder that I'm going to call 03 stock footage. And then I can grab, I'll have this depth map in here and I'll just put it down at the bottom here. And then I'll hide it. I don't actually need to see it. But if I get something like this lingering fog asset, here's what that looks like. Let's audition a couple of these. We have this one right here. We have Oh, this one's kind of nice because it's like a little surface, and I think there's kind of a cool curl in that one. And here's sort of just a general, mist spreading out kind of one. Let's take a look at the one with a curl. That was really cool. This one. So we'll go back to our comp, wherever it is. Is this it? Yeah. Let's throw that in here. Just for a moment, I'm going to set the blending mode to screen just so I can kind of see what it looks like. And I'll sort of position it like this. Or do I want it upside down, maybe? No, it was probably fine. I'll try to find the right position for it, roughly. And then I remember this being pretty slow because it's kind of supposed to be, a giant area, but this is actually a kind of closer up shot. So I'm going to go to the time remapping, go to my end frame here, and just drag this out so you can sort of see. I can get a little bit more of the curl of that fog. Actually, let's put the curl of the fog next to this boat. Then we have that kind of curl happening there. So that looks kind of silly in front of it with a screen mode. But if I sort of take this element, I'm going to turn off screen mode for a moment, and then I'm going to, let's add the set matte effect. So I can set the matte to be its own luminance channel. Now it's basically, let's see if I show it over transparent. It's a little bit hard to see, but it's trying to just use its own luminance now. So it's now kind of a weird grayish color. But I'll pre-compose this whole thing so it's cropped and in the right place right here, and I'll just call this fog. And now that it's here, I can go to the track matte and say my ship's depth clip right here as a matte for it, and I'll switch it to the Luma matte. And now it's a little bit hard to see, and in fact, I think I need to invert it. But if I go to my down to my hidden layer and add some just brightness and contrast, as I brighten and darken this layer, which I could reveal, I guess. If I make this brighter, it punches out anything that's bright in this foggy layer. So let me turn up my little in-app viewer exposure setting. Look at that. So as I turn up this fog, I can get this atmospheric reveal of it. I could even use Legacy and really crunch it all the way, to the back behind all of the ships, or as I move it forward, it's sort of like it scans through the depth of everything that's there. And it looks really neat on any given frame, but the overall result is actually kind of flickery. So what I'm going to do is I'll turn the contrast back down to something like this, where there's just a little bit in front of the boat, there's more behind, and it's doing that. Oh, I did make it too fast, I guess. So let's go to my fog element here and see how fast I made it. I made it really fast. I went from 0 to 16, in like 1 second. That's too fast. It's too much fog. So let's just go here and then jump back. There we go. Now it's just curling kind of right at the same speed as the depth map is flickering. And if I layer that in there, I should turn off the visibility of my depth map here. Wait, what?
11% says, y'all got me started with After Effects. Appreciate you guys.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome, 11%.
What am I? Oh, I forgot my in-app.
Andre says, oh man, I just got here. I forgot to ring that bell on YouTube, so I know these are coming. Yes, please do.
Oh, please.
Again, you're going to get the best results if you ring the bell on all of these channels, but especially if you go to youtube.com/@VFX and Chill, that's our main channel. You'll be able to check and see if you have that bell rung all the way, know when we've got upcoming streams planned and all that kind of fun stuff. So make sure you like this video on whichever stream you're on, and hit the bell, of course, to subscribe and subscribe. But especially on the VFX and Chill YouTube channel, which is our main one, and where the main bulk of this chat is happening.
Absolutely.
Patrick GG says we should consider asking Maxon or maybe Puget Systems for another streaming PC. I'm just very grateful that my computer's internet is staying up. My internet comes out of the sky, and we've got some cloudy skies with potential for rain coming in. I'm surprised it stayed off far enough for me to stay online, which is great.
And
Michael Palak says last week's Wicked Witch would have a hard time fighting Gladiator. She's pretty powerful.
She's pretty powerful. Michael, you were just using parametric curve, and I wanted to show you one of the ways that I love using it. If I have something like Action VFX and I'm using the set matte effect, so I'm grabbing its luminance, sometimes it's not very visible. And one thing you can do is you can grab the curves and set it to alpha in regular After Effects, but I love using the parametric curve with the overlay because I can grab the alpha curves and look at this. You can see that I can dial up how much alpha is there for these. Now, obviously, I don't want, as soon as I invert it, you get a weird effect. But if I just put them visible like that, then they're prime for some cool super comp kind of work in a moment, because I can use them to blur these foreground elements too. So now we've got a bit of foreground fog. We've got these ships sort of moving like that. I wonder if I could use that same Water's Edge piece of footage and fake some kind of there's this sort of little element of it where it's sort of dripping off the rock there. And I'm going to see if I set the ship as a oops. As the matte, there we go.
On you. Look at that!
Then I can
That's such a cheat.
I'll turn down the opacity a lot, but I'll get okay, somewhere in here I might get the okay. Okay, it's way more than I remembered happening in that instance. I was thinking that it would just be dripping down.
But it would work.
It's something.
The technique of what you're doing, using water splashing up on something else and putting it in, has been used for a very long time to comp boats into shots. This is not the first time this has been done.
Boats into shots. Oh yeah, here. So yeah,
that
within
works.
the web viewer, that probably looks pretty decent. It looks not great if I'm lingering on it. And I forgot to cut out the front of this boat that should be in the water, but I pre-rendered the boats and the reflections. So I'm going to leave them for a moment, but you get it. I'll shrink this down a little bit.
Oh,
what do you expect from us?
I also wanted to talk about. We're not ILM, and certainly not ILM in 30 minutes, which is when you started that.
Heck yeah.
Michael Palak, I don't want to spoil Wicked for you, but the water is not as much of a danger as you might think. All right. So if we're up over on my screen real quick, I can show you.
Please.
I meant to. This is what I was really wanting to show. So, by the way, I want to point out some people like to complain that particular is slow, but it's not.
Because you also started this at the half-hour point during this show too, and are simulating away.
I did this in 2 minutes.
I did this in 2 minutes. Look at that.
This one I did. I've got 20,000 particles a second and a fluid sim, and it's running in flipping real time. So I don't know what y'all's problems is. Anyway, the point is I've made my emitter very narrow. So this is a good way to simulate the behind something moving in the water. So if you've got a boat on top, you put this behind it and then make it, then just map it onto the water surface. You can get this cool bubbles behind a boat's propellers, and you've got control using the velocity. If I put this down to 0, I get a much smoother look to the sim. Maybe just pause it here. You can kind of see the difference. If I go negative 8,000 on the velocity, I get it kind of being pulled along with the boat because this is shooting it this direction because I have the emitter flipped. So negative 8,000 is shooting this way. So it gets you kind of a more it's trying to go, but not. And then if I go full on 8,000 this way, it pushes it more behind the boat, the prop's really pushing it. Or if I go down to just 0, it's just kind of getting pulled behind the boat, just more. Anyway, you have controls over this. But I've just made a very thin emitter. If I made the emitter, say, deeper, let's go, I don't know, let's just go the same. You get kind of a messier messier, muddier look versus having it just be like on the surface. That's just a tip in particular in general. If you want to really see detail in your environment, air turbulence settings, for example, make it a very thin emitter, and you'll just get kind of a stream of particles doing their thing. It makes it a much more detailed, apparently, because your eyes aren't getting confused by the multiple levels of noise. You just get the one like slice through the noise, and it really gives you neat detail in your effects.
It looks phenomenal. Honestly, no juke.
Yeah, and it's just fun to play with. Oh, I added some random swirl on X to this, but you can add. Just go to random swirl. If I put this up to like 80, we'll just add like go. So it just adds more weirdness to it.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, you got a lot of fun controls.
That's looking great.
And it's spewing out. I'm curious what happens if I add another 0 to make 200 part thousand per second.
Go for it. If we lose Michael, we know why.
There we go. See, I've got 200,000 particles per second in a fluid sim, and it's not real time anymore, but it ain't half bad either. Now in Cinema 4D, you could do 2 million particles a second, and it's pretty real time. But that's simulating a GPU. This is simming on a CPU, so it's pretty good for CPU particle simming.
Not bad at all. Okay, let's see.
Michael Palik is asking, is this part of wake culture I've been hearing about? Indeed. No, it's not.
Incredible. Let's see. What I'm doing right now is I'm really pleased with just my fake Jaws effect, which is just... so check this out. I now have some like seeming interactivity with the boats moving along here in the water. And, it's not spectacular, but if you were cutting to this shot out of context, the boats are all doing what they ought to be doing. They're reflecting. And watch, if I turn these on individually, like it feels like a lot of work, but water is super forgiving in a way because I just have, my background image, and then I have this water footage, which not phenomenal, but at least it's footage, so you see it like footage. And then I add this water edge right there for that one visible section, and this water edge on that visible section. So now you get this kind of organic edge up there that gets hidden nicely by the ship and its reflections right here. And now in front of the ships and the reflections, I can add this atmospheric fog, and I can add a little bit of breaking water just because it happens to be that little clip of that piece of footage. I'm using the same piece of footage on all of these, just offsetting them a little bit. But then I put one on the right side of the boat that kind of moves that direction, and then horizontal flipped it and put one on that side of the boat at the same time. So it looks kind of like it's parting its way open. And we only have about 5 minutes left. And so I am just scrolling through my effects to see if I have, let's see, what do we have here? I'm going to do the crappiest version of this. Let's attach this to a little null object. Oh, man, that's really fast.
It's great for an hour and 40 minutes, but you have to remember, Hashi didn't start this part of this shot till way into the stream. Like, I think we were over an hour before you really started messing with this. But yeah.
Okay.
This is stupidly great for the tiny amount of time you put it in.
All right.
What you need is one of the bonfire shots from Action VFX for this.
Yes.
To get the scale right, because that flame is too small for that boat.
Big fire, maybe. Let's see what that looks like. Let's swap it in here.
That's better.
Okay, that's a better size. Oh, and then I need to also interpret its footage down to 24 frames per second. Yeah.
And you need to flip it. You need to flip it so that it's going the other way.
Let's see. Mass.
Like horizontally.
Oh yes, definitely. You know what? The whole boat's on fire in mine. They've lost before it began.
Now you can scale it down and put it on top of the boat like you wanted to.
Let's see. It's a lot of flame. here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to scale it up and just use, they have amazing elements. Like they have like beams on fire, and I don't.
That would be great out of the Forest Fire collection. Yes.
So please, go browse Action VFX. I'm doing a really crappy version of this just because I'm trying to do it in just a few minutes. We got that. We got, what do we got? We got side smoke. What does side smoke look like? Oh, no. Not side
real
smoke.
quick, while you're doing that, side smoke would be for the side of the boat, making it look like mist through the fog. Not a bad idea to use puppet pin or mesh warp or Bezier warp on fire elements to get them to be the shape you want. You can actually push it further than you think you can, and it still is believable.
Oh, absolutely.
Just as a note for folks. I know but you've got 4 minutes to knock together something. So I would just throw that in there while you're looking for assets.
Why? Let's see. Where's my windy? Wait, are you? Are you not playing?
Have windies on your island?
Oh, there it is. It's way down there, and it's got to be faced the other way. Okay, we'll put the anchor point down here. We'll scale this quick and dirty way. Just put a little negative right there, and put that right here. Put it behind. Scale. Oops. Okay, what do we get? Okay. No, these are all betraying each other right now.
Flip it to the right. Yeah. The fire is being blown slightly to the right, so smoke needs to blow slightly right as well. And I think the lighting is.
What have I done?
That's better.
It's something. It's something. We're getting there.
Make it a little smaller. A little
smaller. Whoops. And the anchor point.
But you got to tilt. Tilt it back up though, because it's blowing too far now. Yeah, there you go.
I kind of I like this curvy edge of it there.
I know.
Okay, so we're getting something, and then let's see. What I need to do is I have a couple of. Let's see. I want to combine all of my ships together, just like the British Navy. Well, okay, let's grab all the. Let's see.
3 minutes.
Layer. Let's pre-compose all of you, please, and we'll call this ship stuff. What did I do?
What did you do?
Layer pre-compose. Oh, it's that checkbox. I'm gonna undo that. Ship stuff. It had multiple start times for those layers, and it tried to crop it to the right thing. So there's the ship stuff. I'm going to collapse all of the background stuff. Layer pre-compose this all as BG. And then from here, I'm going to add these. Oh, wait, what happened to my ship stuff? The fog I didn't want to put in here. I'm going to... nuts. What happens? Okay, if I turn that off. Oh, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to duplicate my ship stuff. I'm going to call this fog only. And then go to this one, turn on only the fog. Come back to here. What do we got? We got 1 minute. Jeez. Okay,
bring fog only.
Okay, that's there. Grab all these layers. Effect. RGVFX, Super Comp. Gosh. Okay, here.
Michael Palak says Super Comp would make that sync. Speaking of Super Comp, Michael's Tip Tuesday was super helpful. And yes, make sure you follow Maxon Red Giant on your social media channels. Every Tuesday, I put out some tips. You can search for hashtag Tip Tuesday and get to see all of them.
Absolutely. First thing I'm going to do, I'm going to hit the match background on the smoke and grab the color from the background here. I'm going to move the fog all the way up to the front, and let's use some
blur behind.
Let's turn that up a little bit. So now you see we're getting a little bit of mistiness. I would probably also add some color correction and grab a lot of the white point value from the background.
Good.
To the fog there. Oh gosh, there's so much more we could do with fire.
Turn to an additive layer and grab the big fire preset.
Yes, presets, pyrotechnics, big fire. There. So now it's going to bloom out. Get some
And it's got the heat distortion and all the other stuff to really make it like feel like it's sitting in the scene. I was doing a demo on this for someone the other day, and my gosh, I I, I always forget how great Super Comp is, and I start using it. I'm like, yeah, this thing's this thing's fantastic.
It is so wonderful. Oh, then the smoke. Gosh, let me just see if we have a preset for smoke. This is one that Hashi made. What did I do? What was I doing with it? Blur behind is high, and I was edge blending. Oh, I don't know. I don't remember what that was for. But anyway, let's see. Let me see if I play this back. I want more glow on the fire, to be honest.
Why don't you dock that Super Comp panel with your effect controls panel area? That way you can not jump around as much.
That's a good idea. I'll need to. I do honestly need to consider where I'm putting stuff here. Where's my? Oh, is it too big for how small this element is supposed to be? Let's set this down to 200. I know we're a little over time, everyone, but computer is loving to try to stream and do this at the same time. You know what? I think this ended up pretty cool.
I agree. I think this is very believable. Like, you cut to this, no one's going to question it.
No. Yeah, computer is struggling a little bit right here. I don't know what I pre-comped together with what. I think that I've done something terrible because it's mad at me. This is running.
Jason Murphy says amazing work as usual. There it is. Jason Murphy says amazing work as usual, guys. Michael Pollack says, oh, and happy belated birthday, Michael. Thank you very much. Yes, my birthday was Tuesday.
What? Oh, what a crappy friend I am. Happy birthday, Michael. Oh, man. I didn't even make a cake shape of your head.
It's all right.
Cut up on the
I don't like to sing about it because then people start counting and realize that I am older than they think I am. So it's fine if no one knows what my birthday is.
But with age comes wisdom, especially amazing After Effects wisdom. Pulling out Wave World. Goodness, you deserve a.
It's an oldie. It's such an oldie, but it's like ridiculously powerful for what it can do, and the fact that it is been in there forever is ridiculous.
That is crazy. Well, that was a very wild episode of VFX and Chill. I can't believe that we used like the last half hour to do the thing that we set out to do, but we saw so many cool things in the meantime, which is really wonderful. Thank you all so much for joining us here. Please, if you haven't, we would love you to subscribe to the channel, give us likes and all those fun metrics and things like that, so everyone will be proud of us. And Michael, anything before we head to the weekend?
I have nothing to add. Just make sure you follow Max on Red Giant on the social medias. There's fun, inspirational things at get times. And again, like I said, every Tuesday you got 2 tips, most every Tuesday. So yeah, join in. Nice to see all of you in the chat. Yes, no drops this stream. Sorry. Next week, Seth will be back, and we'll be dropping it like it is hot.
Absolutely. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful weekend. Bye-bye.